Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of Josh's Tech Bites. Today we're going to be taking a look at the 8BitDo mod kit for the OEM N64 controllers. And I'm going to give you my thoughts on it and how to install it. So let's dive in. Alright, so this is the second time I'm recording this video because my microphone cut out the first time. So we're going to take a look at what's included in the kit. First of all, you get your instruction booklet and explains kind of everything that I'm going to be explaining to you. You get your controller motherboard, and I've already kind of moved the pieces around a little bit. So like I said, this is the second time I've had to record this video, so I've already put the pieces into place. You get a little rubber stopper for where you take your control wire out. You get a USB-C cable. This is awesome because I love USB-C, and I'm glad everything is moving that way. And you get the Rumble Pack Bluetooth adapter. You also get a nifty little screwdriver, little Phillips head screwdriver. This is actually a pretty high quality little screwdriver. I'm impressed with what they included. So our first order of business is going to be to take the N64 controller apart. Now there are 9 screws to remove in the N64 controller. There's 2 down here in the Rumble Pack area. There's 2 right here beside the Rumble Pack area, and there's 2 on each side of the handle grips, and then 1 right here in the center handle grip. So I've already removed the screws for time purposes, and once you get the screws out, you just lift off the back housing, and then we can go ahead and start taking the pieces out. You'll need to take the shoulder buttons out. You'll need to take the little rubber membranes out. This piece right here, make sure you be very careful. Don't try to pull this side. This side is the one that flexes, so just lift it out to the left or right, or out to the right, and then pull the little membrane off. The other thing that you're going to have to remove is the joystick control wire. You don't have to take the joystick piece all the way out. You can finagle it enough to get it around without having to remove the 3 screws and take the joystick out. But once you pull it out, just pull it aside. And then go ahead and pull your control wire out and lift out your controller motherboard. Now let's say this. You may want to hang on to this, because if you ever want to go back to the wired controller, you'll have it laying around. But if not, put them on eBay. Somebody may need one of these, and you can help them out by selling them one you don't plan on using anymore. So I'm going to set that aside. There's nothing else we need to take out of the controller. First thing that we will need to do is put the little rubber membrane into the slot at the top, and it goes in just like that. Now the control board for the new controller motherboard has a little nub that kind of sits in that, so just make sure that you orient it the correct way. It'll have like a lip. I don't know if you can see that, but it just sits down in there like that. Because if you don't orient it the right way, first of all, it's not going to sit correctly, and there's really only one way to put it in, so you can just play around with it until you get it in there right, and that will slide in behind it. The next thing you'll do is just go ahead and take your, well, we'll probably need to go ahead and plug in our joystick wire first. And the end with the contacts will need to go towards the up side. So I want to turn that this way, push it in, and what I usually do is I will just take my index fingers and hold on the back, and take my thumbnails and just kind of push it up in there, and you'll feel it kind of click, and you'll know that it's seated correctly. So now I'm going to take my Z button membrane, I'm going to put it on my Z button switch, and it has 2 little grooves that little membrane nubs kind of fit into, and you'll want to put it in from right to left, because like I said, the left side is the one that has the give, the right side does not. And just kind of push it down in there. Make sure your membrane gets behind the clips as well. You don't want the membrane to be loose or not sitting correctly, because it will make the button feel mushy. The next thing we'll do is probably the hardest part, is getting these little shoulder buttons into place. If you look on the original N64 controller motherboard, both of the wires were kind of up here, and because of the way the chips were laid out on this board, they had to move the wires on this side down here. So it's not as big of a deal on this side because there's really nothing to pinch these here. But on this side, you'll have a kind of this little round thing right here. It's a support, like a pressure point. You don't want that to get caught right here because it will pinch your wire and kind of cut it. So I found that the best place to put it is kind of bend it back like this and get it in between, you know, your plus signs right here, which is your button pads. So let's go ahead and put our membranes on these. It's always a task finding which one fits on which side. The easiest way to tell is where the solder points are, is where that little groove is going to be. I've done this enough times, you think that I would not mess that up. Alright, so you want to get your membrane onto the button pad, and it has a little like groove that it slides into. Same for this side. The membranes have those little nubs, and there's little holes that those nubs go into. And just try to get them in, make sure your wire is pushed down so that it doesn't try to lift out. And then you will take your right and left buttons and put those back. They have a little nub as well, a little hinge point, and it has a little groove that it sits into. But a good way to know is when you're looking at it from this side, the right's going to go on the left and the left is going to go on the right. So they'll be backwards. Now we're ready to put it all back together. So when you put the controller back together, it has these two posts, and they have two holes on this side of the controller that it slides into. So hold the controller like this, because if you try to hold it like this, you're going to knock these buttons out. So we want to hold it like this, line those up, and then just kind of see it's already starting to fall out. These buttons are an absolute pain when you're working on N64 controllers. You have to get it just right, make sure that it sandwiches in between them, and then just kind of start pressing around until you feel all of the posts go into the screw holes. You may have to wiggle it back and forth, but it will go. Before you screw everything back in, just make sure that all your buttons feel right. Make sure they don't feel mushy, and you got your membranes in correctly. You know, test your face buttons. Just make sure everything feels good. And after that, we're ready to screw all these little screws back in. The hardest ones to get in will be the ones down here in the rumble pack area. I highly recommend a magnetic screwdriver for this part, or a good pair of long tweezers. And I'm not going to make you guys watch me screw all these screws back in. I'm going to speed this up. Alright, controller's back together. We'll just stick in our rumble pack and we are done. And once it goes in, we'll hit our start button, lights up, and we have done everything correctly at this point. Okay, so I've done this mod on quite a few controllers now, and I will say this, the clear controllers are a whole lot easier to do than the opaque controllers, like the solid colors, because you can kind of see inside that your cables are where they're supposed to be and they're lined up correctly, and putting it back together, it just kind of makes it a lot easier. Okay, so there's one thing I want to say about the little rumble pack accessory that goes into the controller. It doesn't have the battery in it here. The battery is actually on the control board itself, and the battery does look like it may be user replaceable, which will be super nice if you can find that type of battery, because in 5 years from now when that battery stops holding the charge, I want to be able to replace it. But anyway, on the back of the little rumble pack accessory are your extra buttons that you'll need when you're playing on Nintendo Switch. You can also mount these buttons, you know, when you're using your emulators as well. There's the ZR button, your home button. This little button here with the wireless icon is your pair button, and the star button is the turbo button. I haven't actually been able to get that one to work yet with any of my emulators, but on the Nintendo Switch side, this is your screenshot button. Okay, so what are my thoughts and impressions on this mod kit? I absolutely love this mod kit, and I think it is a godsend for people like me who love to play Nintendo 64 games through an emulator, or if you want to use it for your Nintendo Switch. The downside to the Nintendo 6 N64 controller is out of the box it will not work with PCs and emulators. You have to kind of use a third-party app, and it works sometimes at best, and at most it never works correctly. So this is a huge win. I really love that it's very affordable. It's cheap. You can get the mod kit without the Hall Effect joystick for $29.99, I think it is. So these kits are very inexpensive. They're easy to install. One thing I will say about the Hall Effect joystick, it's a GameCube style joystick that comes with the kits. I do not like those. Sometimes you can't pull off the moves that you need to in some games because of the way those joysticks operate. I like original joysticks, and I know those joysticks wear out. That is the Achilles heel of Nintendo 64. It has always been. But now we have options on fixing those joysticks. There's a company, Kitchbent. I'll link it in the description below. And they make the gears, they make the bowl, and they make the sticks themselves to refurb your old joysticks. And the kits work great. They're really good. And there's some what is the one I'm trying to think of, the material, some grease, some silicone grease that you can put into the bowl to keep the joystick from grinding down again after you replace the parts. I'll also link that in the description below. But yeah, I definitely recommend just ordering the kit itself and fixing your joysticks. And like I said, like if you don't want to take your N64 controller that you use with your original N64, buy a broken one on eBay. I mean, you can get one for $5 or $10. I mean, plus shipping, I mean, $10, $10, $15, and then you get the kit. The good thing about these is they're available. The N64 Switch controllers are hard to get. They're very hard to get. I just looked up one day and found them in stock and was able to order one, and I haven't seen them back in stock since. Maybe one time. But like I said, my disappointment with those is I really can't use it with my emulators. So these are fantastic. I love these. So one thing to note is that these kits, once you do this, you're probably not going to use it with an original N64 console anymore, unless they make some kind of Bluetooth adapter that goes into the controller port. I don't know. I've not looked for those. So let me know what you guys think. And maybe you've been using this kit. Maybe you already have it. Maybe you've made this mod and you like it or don't like it. Let me know. So we'll see you in the next one.